Thank you for agreeing to interview with us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Kim Stumbo, also known as the One Arm Wonder Mom. I am an OT by trade, but I'm also a speaker and a writer and a mom and a wife and all those other things. But I also happen to have one hand. So,
That's awesome. So one of our main topics is we want to know like how you got into your field. So what made you want to go into OT as your trade?
so OT is occupational therapy. Most people don't really truly understand what OT is unless they've experienced it themselves. They know what physical therapy is because
Yeah.
people know what, injuries, those kinds of things. A lot more people experience physical therapy in their life. OT is the field where we teach you life skills, we help you problem solve, we work with your upper body and all that stuff. Myself being born like this, I was exposed to OT as a very small child when I went to the Shriners Hospital for my prosthetics. So I had an OT that taught me how to use my first prosthetic. We worked on fine motor skills and that kind of thing, using things with both hands, um, and those kinds of things. But that was the only time I had ever met an OT. I didn't have OT in school, anything like that. But I always knew in the back of my head, I was like, hey, I want to be like that lady Cheryl. So
Right.
when I got into high school, it was either what do I want to do? I want to be a teacher or do I want to go into OT? Ended up going the OT route because I realized I didn't want to do all the work that teachers have to do with the the planning and all this other stuff. They have a lot more on their plates.
Right.
So my mom encouraged me to go that way. Said you're great at problem solving. You can help a lot of people. Why don't you look into that? So that's how I found out about OT and thus continued with it. So
So you said you were born without your arm.
correct.
Uh, can you explain to us about your prosthetics
Yeah.
from being a child to your new prosthetic arm that
Yeah.
we've seen?
So I was born like this. There's different reasonings as to why it happened. One reason they said it was because of a medication my mother was given for morning sickness during her pregnancy that could have caused it. Another is it's just one of those things that happens. We don't really 100% know the true answer. We just have suspicions on both ends. So my parents didn't know I was going to be born like this. Ultrasounds weren't as in depth back then when I was born. So I came out with one hand as a surprise. My parents didn't know really what to do. They did the best they could. They obviously didn't treat me any different, but they sought out help because, you think of somebody with one hand, they're going to struggle, at least from a two handed point of view. So they found the Shriners, and through them, they provided, any kind of care that I would need as far as my prosthetics and stuff, because there was nothing else physically wrong with me once they did an exam and stuff. Because during, fetal development, there are other parts of the body that develop at the same time as the limbs do, so they checked through to make sure I didn't have any other health concerns or anything. So I got my first prosthetic, which was a hook, traditional hook, when I was just like 6 months old.
Oh,
So I,
wow.
yeah, why they give those to babies, I don't really know because all I did was hit things with it. I got my first myoelectric prosthetic, which means it's muscle controlled, when I was 2. At that point in time, in 1984, I was the youngest one to functionally use a myoelectric prosthetic across the country. So that was something I became, pretty good with, learned how to, pick things up and stuff, but the technology was still very simple back then. The hand only did this motion. That's it. So literally just a claw, gross grasp motion. You can't really pick up a lot of minute things with a big claw grip. Um, so I wore them up until I was around 16. Again, the technology didn't change too much as far as the function went from it. The only thing that improved was instead of having a battery that was on a 6 foot long cord going down my shirt into a pouch. They finally were able to get the batteries to be into the prosthetics themselves, so I didn't have to have like a battery pack attached to me at all times. Um, I stopped wearing them because they were uncomfortable. They weren't functional. I'm completely functional with just the way I am.
Right.
So I stopped wearing them. Went on to meet my husband, got married, had my children without a prosthetic. He had never seen me with a prosthetic. Um, in 2016, I had to have shoulder surgery on this arm. So I had 3 torn rotator cuff muscles, which is pretty bad. There's only 4 rotator cuff muscles, so I tore 3 of them.
Yeah.
Uh, the doctor explained to me that my shoulder was that of somebody in their 60s or 70s, so they needed to go in there and fix it before things got really bad. Well, knowing the recovery process and being in a sling for, almost 3 months, it could have been extended to, you got to have something. You can't be like this. And I'm limited. I'll be able
Right.
to grip. So I was like, okay, I need to get a prosthetic. So I went to a prosthetics company and I got this. So this is my current prosthetic. Again, it is a myoelectric type. It is the hand itself is called. Can you see it? It's an
Yeah.
Island Quantum. So this is through Oser Prosthetics, which is based out of Iceland. Is the main company for the hand part, and then this part here is constructed by each individual prosthetics company. They measure it and fit it to yourself, just like any kind of other orthotic or anything. So I got that. The wrist. Sorry, my bracelet's in the way. The wrist flexes. It's a manual flexion though, so I have to manually do it just like I did there. So this, I was able to pick food up and get to my mouth and feed myself. Um, this one here, besides just being the myoelectric, also has something called gesture control, which is something we didn't have back when I was younger. With this, I have to just put the hand into the open mode, my finger clicks, and then I move either in, out, forward, or backwards to make the hand switch into 4 pre-programmed grips or gestures. So I'll show you that. Let's see if I can get it to do it. So did you guys see
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
It goes into like a lateral grip is what the purpose is. So it would be able to turn a key or whatever. But I use it for thumbs up. So um, there are also like there's an app for it that I can access. I think 24 other grips because again the human hand is very complicated.
Right.
So lots of different grips I could get into, including customized gestures. If I had a profession where I needed to like grab a particular instrument in a certain way, I could pre-program it that way. But I'll show you how it works. Let me get my. There it goes. All right. So inside, I'm trying to see if I can show the camera. There's little yellow buttons. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
can
Yeah.
see. Those are just electrodes, and what they are done, they are placed in the parts of my arm where I have good muscle control, and you can kind of see me contract my muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I push on this side, that means open. When I push on this side, that means closed. So it's really simple
Oh,
technology.
yeah.
Same technology that we had back when I was a kid. So that part stayed the same. It's just the gesture control is new, and that has to do with like computers and gyroscopes and stuff that's way past my brain level. I don't think like that.
Yeah.
Um, but it is like it's like riding a bike. So even though I haven't worn one in almost 20 years, as soon as I put it on and it was fitted correctly, I was able to open, close, pick up things, do just like I did. Um, so that's one of the cool things about it.
Yeah. I was gonna say when it comes to prosthetics, especially things like that, it doesn't seem like it's changed much. In the museum where I work, we have one of those, and the buttons are still the same.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there have been some strides in certain things. The weight has changed, so they're not as heavy as they used to be.
Yeah.
Um, but and this one, I can isolate individual fingers, whereas my old hand back in the day, even though it looked like it had 5 fingers, that was just because it had the glove over it. it only actually had 3 full like metal fingers inside of it. So they have now made it to where it's all 5 full functioning fingers. Um, Now there are other advancements as far as nerve stuff, but that's only for those that are traumatic amputees. So those of us that are born with a limb difference, we're not um, candidates really for that kind of technology because our brain doesn't function. If you ask me to open my right hand, I don't know what that
Right.
means. So because it's never been there, so my nerves wouldn't know how to send the impulse versus somebody that had an amputation could be a candidate for those, nerve implanted prosthetics that are mind controlled, they're still working on and have not perfected yet, but they are working towards that.
When it comes to work for you, what are some of the challenges that you see with being limited to just having one arm or using your prosthetic in general?
So at work, I currently work in a chiropractic office. I do office work. I do not wear my prosthetic to work because it is cumbersome. It's not comfortable to wear all day. And like I said, because I'm 100% functional without it, I don't wear it as much as I did when I had my surgery and relied on it. Um, as far as limitations, honestly, I really don't have any limitations when it comes to work. The only things I do look at now is lifting, and that's more to protect this arm than anything.
Right.
But limitations, no. Challenges, yes. Like obviously, I interact with the public, so I am, especially when I do my speaking and stuff like that, I am on stage for everybody to look at, to ask questions, those kinds of things. I don't hide my difference, so sometimes that can be challenging. Sometimes you just aren't in the mood to talk about things; you just want to blend in.
Mm-hmm.
But um, for the most part, I try to be that resource for people that can approach and ask the questions. But that's only the kind of challenges is like if people seem a little off put because I have one hand or a patient questions my abilities because I have one hand, that those are the challenges. But as far as function goes,
Yeah, I always tell the story of how when I was a kid, you were my OT, and you taught me how to knit.
uh huh,
And
yeah,
that's something I always carried
yeah.
with me.
Who knew that a one-handed girl was going to teach a two-handed person how to knit?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was. Okay, so let's get into your book. Can you
Okay,
tell us a little bit about it?
sure. So I published my first book just over a year ago. It is a comic-styled children's book. It's actually good for all ages, but it's more geared towards children. And it was just a vehicle for me to share my story so that I can spread awareness not only for limb difference awareness, which is the PC term for what is up with anybody that might be missing a hand or anything that is not of typical form. I decided to just how could I share my story in the most like broad way possible. So I was like, books are good. Kids like books. So I started working on the story. I found an artist who I've never met. We connected over the internet through an app for me to be able to find a graphic artist. He lives in South Carolina, but it was like he was meant to be my artist. He said, it's kind of funny. My neighbor's daughter has an arm just like yours. So I was like, well, looky there. Like, you already kind of sort of know things then. So this is my book. It is titled The Adventures of the One Arm Wonder Mom, and it is about me and all my family to be included. So I am the superhero, and my husband and our 3 boys are also in the book. And what we do is we just share the story of how we choose to look at disabilities and differences in a positive light as superpowers. So, for instance, I'm the one arm wonder mom. So, like, yes, I own my difference as my superpower. My oldest son was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 5. So, in the book, his name is Sonic Boom. So, we play off of symptoms um, of ADHD and put them into their superhero character. My middle son has a condition called amblyopia. which means has such a visual difference between his two eyes. He's actually legally blind in his right eye, so he has to wear glasses all the time. So in the book, he has supersonic vision. He wears these special goggles. He sees things from a different perspective. Those kinds of things. And then my youngest son was born 3 months early, so he was a preemie. And if you looked at him now, you would never know. He has caught up and excelled beyond size-wise what he should be for a year old. And so his character's name is Dr. Vale because looks are deceiving, and we don't necessarily know what somebody's had in their past, what struggles they might have had. Because he had a rough start. He was on a ventilator. He was in the hospital for like 2.5 months. Um, so we just take all of our stories and we share them. My favorite part in the book is the last section here, is because this happens on a daily basis. And what it does is it talks about how parents and children react when they see me or when they see anybody that's different. It's like, hey, mommy, what's wrong with her? Or, mommy, did you see this? Or, mommy, that's different. And the mom usually goes, shh, and
Uh-huh.
that's not what we want. I mean, it is, but it's not. So, like, yes, we don't want people being rude. We don't want stares or aggressive comments made towards us. But most children are usually inquisitive and don't understand because they haven't seen those with differences and disabilities. So they just want to understand what's going on. With that, that's usually when I approach the parent and say, it's okay, like, you want to know what happened to my arm, and I explain. I also explain to the parents that it's better to have your children ask questions than to not allow them to engage with somebody who's different than themselves.
Completely
So,
agree.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I mean, because that's what it is people just want to know. And I mean, yes, it puts a lot on us that have differences and disabilities to have to share that all the time. It's definitely a burden on us sometimes when we just want to kind of blend in. But if there isn't at least one or two people out there that's willing to, do it for everybody, then nobody's going to learn. So if we're able to get out there and we're able to say it's okay to talk to us, then it'll help the person that maybe is newly disabled or had an accident that really can't talk about what happened, that they're still grieving or dealing or anything like that.
Cool. Do you have any future plans for more books?
Yeah, so you see right there, it says number one. So that
Yeah.
means I have to make more. I am working on the second book, and this summer, we just actually are about to finish our Kickstarter, myself and five other limb different authors and artists, where we met at a thing last summer called the Lucky Fin Project. It's a nonprofit for children and adults now with limb differences to meet up and get together and just see other people like ourselves, and to create a community. We met and decided to create our own anthology. Um, One of the other gentlemen named Travis, he has CAR syndrome. So he actually already writes comic books. He lives in San Diego, so it's like perfect.
Yeah.
And so he, got with me and a couple other artists, and we decided to create this label called Super Abled Comics. So currently, all of our superheroes have limb differences, but there is a future for us to include a wide range of those that have differences and disabilities and stuff like that to be represented, where we see more superheroes that are, maybe not seen as something traditional. Um, so that comes out this summer. Our Kickstarter is still going on until May 1st. We are already at stretch goals because we got fully funded within 4 days. Like, it was amazing.
Wow.
So now we're doing stretch goals and getting stickers and trading cards and all this extra stuff for our characters for people that donate. So we feel very, very blessed with the support that we've had. But yeah, so that comes out this summer, and then that will continue on probably every year. And then my books are going to continue, and I'm writing like what I like to say, a book, like
Yeah.
a real book. Just trying to discuss the things, the challenges, and the triumphs of being a female with a disability and a difference. Because not to exclude you, Israel, but we do have a certain set of challenges that's different than men.
Yeah.
When it comes to beauty and acceptance and motherhood and relationships. So that's something that's I've been working on, and that is definitely a work in progress. That's going to take me a little bit.
That's awesome. So, where can we find your book now if we want to buy it?
So my book is on Amazon.
Okay.
And so all you have to do is just look up The Adventures of the One-Armed Wonder Mom. It should come up. If not, just type in One-Armed Wonder Mom. Wonder Mom is one word. And it should pop right up. This is what the cover looks like. So if in case anybody else has something out there now that I don't know about. Yeah, so it's found there. And then a couple local stores here in Virginia, if anybody out there is looking. But I'm in the Hampton Roads area. So there, I have a store in Norfolk where my book is at, and a store in Chesapeake where my book is at. And also, you can always, if you want signed copies, they can contact me via my email or social media.
Hey, that's awesome.
I think your book is also in our museum store, if I remember correctly.
Awesome, that's right. I did.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yes, which is super cool. I'm so excited. Next time I get to Buffalo, I'm totally coming there to see it too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know it was in the museum store. That's awesome.
Yeah, I reached out. I was like, "Hey, I saw you have a book. Can I help you out?" And then,
Yeah, that's so awesome. I do. I really appreciate that, Israel.
yeah.
Okay, so I think that's it. Unless Izzy has any more questions for you.
We usually like to end it with the person that we're interviewing just giving like a brief statement on what you would like to say to the general public or our viewers about people with disabilities or just people in general and what their expectations should be.
Okay. So what my hope for in the future is that we don't just see the disability. We see the person first. Whether you're looking at that person for their soul or just as a human being, we don't prejudge anybody on their abilities. And we also don't judge them in the fact that they might have to do something different. Like just because they might need help doing something does not mean that they're any less. It's just a different way of doing it. I prefer the word different to be an okay thing. Like to be different is super cool. Like we're all different. But just to be visually accepted where it's not like, oh, hey, like not to have that second look, just to walk past and be like, all right, cool, hey, what's going on? Like, it's all good. We're all the same. That's what I would like. I would like the general public to know that about those of us that are different. But that's, I think, all we really strive for is to be seen as the same. Like, we're just like you. We just either do things different or look different, whatever. But realistically, we're all the same. We're all human. So.
Cool.
All right. Thank you again so much.
Absolutely. Thank you
It's
guys.
great seeing you.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I'm super proud of you guys. I really am.
Thank you.
I'm so happy for y'all. And thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
We'll make sure to check out your book.
All right. Thanks, guys.
And we will let you know when the video's up so you can see it yourself.